So I'd like to introduce our guest today. It's Greg Stockel.
Hi there. My name is Greg. I just started working with the VOA. Some of you may recognize me when I interned with them, um, but now I'm back. I'm from Ohio. I'm now living in DC. So this is all very exciting.
Yeah, and our topic today is leaving school in a pandemic. Greg just graduated from Ohio State University, and so I asked him to come on and talk about, what is it like going through your graduation ceremony uh, under these conditions that we're living in now. And then there's once you've graduated, you've got to find a job. How is it, looking for a job in a pandemic? So we'll be, talking to Greg, and then we'll be asking you some questions about your experiences with graduation and job hunting, other things that are going on these days. Greg, tell us, how was your graduation?
Well, this year the actual ceremony was virtual. So it was just like a video, and they kind of talked about like the year, and they didn't really do like diplomas or anything like that. So the actual ceremony, like the event where they celebrate the graduation, was different. Um, I had done the whole semester working from home, so I hadn't seen campus in like 9 months before that. So it was different in that I hadn't even seen the actual school in many months.
Not to mention your friends, right?
Yeah, uh, there were a couple friends
Classmates.
that were in my bubble that like we'd see each other and just to be safe. But not no, I didn't see my classmates. I didn't see a lot of people.
So, are any of our guests today recent graduates?
Yeah. I did not graduate this year, but I graduated in last August. Yeah, I mean in 2020. My graduation has a little bit affected by the pandemic because previously I was going to graduate at June, but at that time there was a tiny break of the COVID-19 in Beijing City, so I was not allowed to go back to my campus. So they just let me stay at home, and then just like 2 months later, they told me that okay, the pandemic has basically been contained, so it is okay for me to go back to my campus. And then I initiate my PhD graduation process.
You didn't actually have a ceremony then to graduate?
Oh yeah, we did not have a ceremony, but we just I did a presentation, and they we invited some very professional people, professors, to evaluate my work, but we did not organize some large scale ceremony.
What did you wish you could have done if there wasn't a pandemic? What would you have normally done
Or
for
if
graduation?
normally done, I hope that there will be a ceremony, and I can invite my family and my friends to be here to take some good photos with me, which will be very meaningful and yeah, very unforgettable for my whole life. Actually, as for me, I did not care that pretty much, but I think if I have that photos, uh, like the PhD suit photo, my family will be very happy about it.
Hmm. Yeah. In fact, I talked to a young woman yesterday who is graduating in May here in Indianapolis, and she said that in, instead of going to the graduation ceremony, which she said would just be like watching a movie, right? Sitting in a
Yeah.
theater, spaced apart, watching something on video, uh, she said she was going to have a photo shoot and get a gown in a color that she likes and
Mhm, mhm.
take nice photos with her friends and family.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. It's pretty much like a movie. Mm-hmm.
One of my nieces have finished his studies this year. She studied administration. I'm not sure if they had a graduation, but she received its diploma 2 weeks ago. So we went to celebrate and we went to eat grilled burgers.
Was there any kind of a group ceremony
No,
for
no,
her?
no. Only she received the diploma and that's all.
Uh-huh.
Because
Yeah.
the university is still not open, so that's why.
Yeah. And how did everybody feel about that? Your family?
Well, we know we
What's your
have a
friend?
big family, so so we have been several celebrations. But yeah, we feel really happy now because one of them, well, once they are getting this achieved, we are feeling really happy now.
Uh-huh. Yeah, it's something that you can really honor their achievement for. And
Yeah, for
you
sure.
don't necessarily need to have a ceremony to do that. Many times when we have a graduation ceremony, we have to sit for hours and hours. Right, Greg?
Yes, it's true. And I went to a very big school, so it would be very long.
Yeah, I've been to many graduations and you have to listen to everyone's name being called, right? Uh, but and then everyone gets to have a handshake with the president of the university or their dean and have a photo taken with the president. So there's pros and cons to these big ceremonies.
Dr. Jill, actually, I want to talk about like Greg. I haven't been my university for 1.5 year, but if the pandemic hadn't started, I would have uh, uh, been here, but not now.
All right, and so how do you feel about that?
I am sad because the university has a lot of activities and friends, but
Have you been able to get together with your friends online?
yes, online, yes, we can get together with my friends.
Okay, so Greg, after you graduated, uh, we know that like most graduates, you wanted to try to find a job. Would you like to talk to us about that?
I graduated and I knew that I was going to move to a different city. So there were some hurdles, some challenges to finding a job that was in a different city. But fortunately, with COVID, this is something that worked well for me. Um, Everyone had transitioned to posting the jobs online, making it more accessible to find postings online. So it was easier to do research to find a position. Um, so I applied to maybe 10 different jobs, which is not a lot for most people, especially during COVID. I know people who during COVID applied for 100 to 150 jobs.
So, uh, so Greg shared some of his experience with looking a job. You sent out over 100 applications.
No, I sent out 10, but I would say that people often send out over 100.
I know a lot of you have probably been in your positions for a while, but if you've recently found a job, maybe you have some advice for the new graduates of 2021, how to look for a job, um, or if you want to share, your job hunting experience. Claudia?
I'm not working right now. I lost my job before the pandemic started. So when I lost my job, I decided to take time for me because I have been working for a long time and I wanted to stay at home with my kids and also to time for me. So I decided to take that time, but after that, pandemic started, and I was so scared about that because I didn't have a job and things were so hard here and in all the world. Most of the projects starts to stop were stopped by the huge companies, and they weren't hiring people. So I just calmed down, tried to keep my mind together, and also this streaming, the Voice of America helped me to keep my mind busy because I am getting another skills, English skills, and that will be very helpful for me. But now I am looking for a job. So I post my curriculum into the LinkedIn. It's very helpful, LinkedIn. And also there are a lot of companies that their websites, they have a section where you can provide your information if you are looking for a job in that companies. You can post your data there, and I have had a couple of interviews, and all the interviews or all the contacts have been in by email, and we have had a lot of online meetings via Zoom or Meet. And for me, I think to look for a job in my career, I am an engineer, but I am an IT consultant. It's easy for me to look for a job because we are, well, in this way, I mean, remotely. Yes, because you can be interviewed by people from all over the world. Mhm.
Having been an IT professional, you were already pretty comfortable with having online meetings and putting up a profile online. But you know, a lot of people aren't so comfortable with that technology. So it's much harder, right, for them to look for a job.
I wanted, I want to say something about the job. I have a company and I have my job, and during the pandemic, I don't know how can I invest in my company because I'm afraid. I don't know if I put money in my job because I'm a civil engineer and I make a building and I sell. So I don't know about future. I want to say if you have a company of if or you have your own business, you don't know about future and you cannot guarantee about economy. So all of person, if you want to be an employee or if you have a company, you have a lot of crisis and you could not solve a lot of problem. So I want to say during this time, in my country, we have a sanction and we have a corona COVID-19 crisis together. So we are waiting for future and making better for life. Thank
Yeah.
you.
So Ruspe is telling us that even if you have your own business, there's still that uncertainty with the economic situation in your country and in the world, the big economic changes in the last year. You have a lot of things to worry about, even if you are your own boss, right? You're responsible for your company. Greg had his hand up. Go ahead, Greg.
Yes. So I looked up the unemployment rates, and it looks like during COVID, it peaked at about 13 to 15% in the states. But currently, according to the Bureau of Labor, it's at 6%.
Mm-hmm. However, I've heard that there was a recent study came out this week that said women especially felt that they had lost economic ground during the recession. Many women and people of color were in jobs that disappeared during the recession. People in the service industry, especially, could no longer do their jobs because their businesses were completely closed. And they didn't have the luxury of being able to telework, like people who are in IT and other administrative type jobs.
Has anyone made any like different plans during COVID when it comes to education or work? Were any of you thinking about going back to school but then had to change plans, or were thinking about changing jobs and had to do something different?
Well, maybe not change. It's more to improve, to make it higher. During this year, I was as a mentor of my niece, and this is a new experience for me.
All right. So the word that Claudia used was mentor, Mentor, sorry. And I put it into the chat. Greg, have you had a mentor recently?
Yes. So I have a great mentor. Her name is Sue. She worked as a diplomat for the United States for 30 some years. And I met her virtually last semester. So she was my mentor during my last semester at university. And I've gotten to meet her 2 times in person in DC since then. So that's been really exciting. She's very helpful on explaining how to integrate into working in DC, and also just a very nice friend. So yeah.
So if you were to define mentor, how would you define it?
I would say a mentor is someone who uh, works in a field that you would like to progress in, and is able to provide advice on anything dealing with professionalism, networking, uh, uh, applying for jobs. I guess anything in the professional life is what I'd say a mentor is. But I guess there
Yeah,
can
so
be other types of mentors, spiritual mentors, life mentors.
yeah. So with that, Greg, I think we're just about out of time. Actually, what Lucas mentioned about being at home and getting a chance to exercise, Ruspe had said that too, right? You get a little bit more time to exercise, not having to sit at a desk all day. Um, the pandemic has really changed the nature of education and work, social relationships. Job hunting, you name it, right? Greg, do you have any closing comments on our topics today?
I do. I think that there have been some good things to the pandemic when it comes to looking for a job. I think it's made it more accessible for many people. For example, I think historically, it's been very hard for individuals to find a job from another city. But during the pandemic, it made it a lot easier for me to, especially network. That's something we didn't touch on today, but a lot of jobs, and especially in DC, it's kind of notorious that if you want to find it, notorious means like famous or known for. Um, when you want to find a job, generally you need to know someone in the place where you're working. So during the pandemic, I was told that I should be networking, and I spent a lot of time networking.
Yeah. So we're trying to find new ways for networking, right?
Yes.
And then networking is always very helpful. All right, so I think that's all we have for today. Thank you, Greg. Everybody, let's say goodbye and thanks to Greg.
Thank you, Jill. Thank you, Greg. Have a nice day.
Yes, you
Yeah.
too.